We are live without Nor. We'll see how we go. Anyway, everybody, thank you so much for joining us on yet another fantastic Tech Sales Insights sponsored by Sales Community. I am really excited to have Kristen Twining with us today. How you doing, Kristen?
Good. How are you, Randy?
Excellent. Thank you. Kristen is at FireMon and the VP of Business Development and Inside Sales. And back years ago, we had the pleasure of working together at HP, and I knew at the time she would be at the time she was a rising star, and she has fulfilled my ambitions, and she's still going and growing and doing great. So really excited to have you today.
Well, thank you so much. That's so kind of you, and I'm thrilled to be on, so thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And for those that were on last week, I apologize. That was my first one out of, I think, 31 or 32 episodes I missed. My son's Duke baseball team won the ACC tournament, so they're on now to the NCAA tournament with 63 other teams, so we'll see how that goes. So sorry for missing it last week, but sound like Megan Sullivan and Dave Knorr did great. And Dave Knorr is actually presenting at a live event in Colorado today. So he is going to try and entrust me and see how we do. So anyway, why don't you maybe give a brief introduction on your background and your current role?
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So as you said, I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Inside Sales at FireMon. I've been here since September, so a really short amount of time, but have really enjoyed it. Feels like I've been here longer, which has been great. Quick background on me. I've been in the tech industry it'll be 15 years in July, which just sounds crazy to me. I started out as an individual contributor sales rep. I've held many different individual contributor roles. Spent most of my career at Hewlett-Packard Enterprise, which, Randy, as you mentioned, that's how you and I met and worked together. I did everything from territory sales to strategic account sales to financial services sales to strategy and program management. And prior to my leaving HP last June, I was leading the inside sales organization for 2 years there.
Wow, fantastic! And just because I don't want to forget, I'm going to put in a shameless plug for our book. So we have coming out your go-to sales advisor. Really proud of it. Tony Jerry was my co-author. You definitely can get it off of Amazon, and we're going to be doing, I think, some membership specials off of Sales Community, which we're going to be announcing, I think, literally later on today. But it's really cool. Kristen has a section in here called "Every Seller is an Inside Seller." We have 97 of the advisory board members from Sales Community. It contributed about 134 best practices. Tony Jerry and I have 72 best practices. We have a couple great parts from Walter Brown, who was an early on sales consultant, who was two fantastic handbooks, one for sales reps, one for sales managers. We have a sales self-assessment. We've got a great summary of some of the top sales methodologies. So get your copy whenever you can. So anyway, back to the podcast here. Can you tell us a little bit about FireMon?
Yeah, so FireMon is a network security policy management company. Basically, customers have really traditionally come to FireMon to help improve their security posture through compliance and really being able to ensure that they maintain compliance and efficiency in their security management solution. So we're very well positioned to help our customers identify things that can limit their network security policy agility through things like automation, risk mitigation, and compliance. So it's a really exciting company and a really cool place to be.
Awesome. So what do you think? I know there's some philosophical differences around security sales. So a lot of people say, I know on the recruiting side, some companies we recruit for, they say, hey, you have to have that security DNA in order to work at a security company. My opinion is if you have good, enterprise go-to-market DNA, kind of doesn't really matter. And I know there's different thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, look, I didn't really have a security background coming in.
Right.
So I will say that, look, with anything, when you come into an organization and you have that background, it's going to be easier and faster for you to scale, right? That's just a fact. But I don't think it's that big of a challenge, because when you're hiring people who you know are going to invest in themselves to go figure it out. And so I think it's really important to hire the attributes of a sales professional or a sales leader that you're looking for, because those are the things that are harder to teach. It's really easier to teach the complexities of the solution that you're bringing to market through both the enablement programs you have, but also through knowing you're hiring someone who's going to be self-motivated enough to go figure it out.
Yeah, that's great. Totally agree. And but before we move on, also congratulations. You had a COVID pregnancy, I guess you're allowed to say. So Lily is now what, 4 months old?
She is. She's going to be 4 months old. June 10th. So I can't believe it.
Wow, congratulations. I'm sure that was a lot to go through with work and COVID and pregnancy and everything else, huh?
Yeah, it was an interesting time being pregnant through COVID, having the baby during COVID, and then also during the unprecedented snowstorm that Texas had. So all of those things combined made for a really interesting experience. But she's here and she's amazing. So.
Yeah. That's great. Congratulations. So, all right, so let's start diving in on some of the questions here. And for those that are watching, you can post any questions that you want, and we'll do our best to get to them. So just within the LinkedIn comment area, I believe that is where you can do them. So one thing we're talking about before was, last week Merrill Lynch had said they're going to stop cold calling. And what's your take on that?
Interesting, right? So I will come out and say that I do not believe that cold calling is dead. But what I do believe is cold calling is not the only answer. What I like to call and what I work with my team on is the trifecta approach, right? It's calls, it's emails, and it's social. And all of those things combined in the right factor and leveraging the right messaging is really the best form of outreach. You can't just rely on one medium to be successful. So cold calling alone is not the right answer, but coupled with and augmenting the full portfolio of how you outreach to a customer is really the best approach.
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely great to have somebody on like you. We've had a lot of the CROs and CEOs, but somebody that's kind of in the weeds of the whole inside selling motion. So great. What do you think about the importance of business development and the myth that prospecting is only for BDRs or inside sellers?
I'm so passionate about this. Every single seller should be prospecting. And what's interesting, when I look at a BDR organization, a lot of the times it's an entry-level position, right? You're coming right out of college, or you're coming into a BDR from maybe being in another form of an industry, not having sales experience. And so it's really a place where you start your sales career. And as you continue to grow, it's really important that you continue to build your muscle, as I call it, around prospecting. You don't just graduate from a BDR into a field seller and just forget about prospecting or just leave it to your BDR. It has to be an approach that's you as a field seller, yes, have to leverage your BDR, but you also have to be prospecting as well. And I think far too often, a lot of sellers get into the motion of account management and going deeper and wider in the account, which is so critical. But there has to be a healthy balance between new and add. And in order to do that, you have to continue to perfect and make sure that you're fueling those muscles and those skills around prospecting as both a BDR and a seller.
Yep, absolutely. And then speaking about inside sales, what about any kind of tools, tips, techniques that you like to push on your team?
So many things. So I think, first of all, just from a technique perspective, again, I talked about the trifecta. We've learned a lot about the importance of research, but not shifting the pendulum too much on spending too much of your day researching, right? You have to find that balance of how much research do you need to do to be confident enough and to just generate interest. I think the other really key important piece here is time management. When you're a BDR, you have a lot that you have to do from not only an activity perspective, but making sure that you're in alignment with your sales teams and making sure you're keeping up with enablement. And there's only so many hours in a day. And so being able to effectively manage your time is very important, and something I instilled very early on in my team is just blocking out your calendar, treating your call block times as if they're meetings, right? And looking to build a calendar that aligns to the activity that you need to do in order to be successful to drive the output you're looking to drive.
Oh, that's great. And what about with that, with your team? You've become a great leader here. Any kind of tips around being an effective coach or leader?
Yeah, I love leadership. It's one of the things that I'm truly passionate about, and mostly around the coaching aspect. I think as a leader, you really have to dive in with your team. I think one of the things, and I'm a big follower of Maxwell leadership, for those of you who may be familiar with that, and it's really centered around the 5 levels of leadership and how your team defines who you are as a leader versus you defining yourself as a leader. So it's very important that you build trust and credibility with your team. And you have to do that by digging in with them, right? Demonstrating that you can do what you're asking them to do. And in many cases, doing it with them, doing ride-alongs, sitting with them as they make calls, giving them on-the-spot continuous coaching, and really being someone who inspires a team to want to grow and to be successful.
Yeah. And then are you guys, for your inside sellers, are they back in the office or still remote?
Right now we're on a hybrid schedule, so 3 days a week. And look, I think we're all trying to figure this out, right? There's a funny video that talks about, is this the new normal? And we're all trying to figure out, what does this hybrid schedule look like? I think it's here to stay for quite some time. But right now I think the importance is just being able to give our team some flexibility, because I think a lot of people enjoyed working remote, but there's so much value, especially from an inside selling perspective, to that camaraderie, that energy, and really that opportunity to learn and network with your peers.
Yeah, and plus it's kind of hard to manage them as well, or see exactly what's going on with their productivity, right?
It is, but and I know we talked about this a little bit, but it is difficult when you're not in the office, but we've really done a good job of being able to leverage some amazing tools and platforms to help us effectively manage the productivity of our team.
Oh, that's great. You want to talk about some of them?
Yeah. So joining FireMon, it's been an amazing experience. So one of the things that I was really impressed with was our tech stack, from a rep productivity perspective, and being able to have access to data that can drive actionable insights. And so for us, we have a pretty good tech stack. So we use 6 Sense from an intent data perspective, which has been really, really valuable to us. We use SalesLoft as our outreach tool. So for our dialer, for dispositions and sentiments around the calls that we're making, to track our email response rates. So that's been a really instrumental tool. We use Salesforce for our CRM. We just brought in ExecVision, which is a conversation intelligence software platform, which is instrumental in being able to effectively coach your team and build scorecards around the calls that they're making and the effectiveness of them. So we have a really solid tech stack that we continue to evolve, and we've got some plans for some future growth around our tech stack to be able to really set not only our sellers up for success, to be able to allow them to be more productive throughout the day, but also to set the leadership team up for success and how to effectively coach and drive them to being able to be the most productive they can be throughout the day.
Yeah, that's great. And then you have next week we have Latney, who's the CMO at 6 Sense on, and think you're leveraging 6 Sense as well, correct?
Yeah, 6 Sense has been instrumental in just being able to prospect to a customer based on the part of the buying journey that they are on, right? We all know that customers are 80% of their way down the buying journey before they even want to talk to a sales rep. And so it's really important when we're prospecting to be able to understand where that customer is, because if we're reaching out to them too early, we're not going to be as effective. We really have to reach out to them at that right time, and 6 Sense has really helped us figure out a strategy around that.
Yeah, that's a whole broad category account-based marketing, right?
Right, exactly.
For sure. And then Insight Squared, I think, is another one you had mentioned, correct?
Yeah, Insight Squared we recently brought on back, I want to say at the beginning of this year, where we started implementing it. For me, so I also run account executives, and that has been an instrumental tool to visualize and consolidate all of my forecasting. So I've really enjoyed using Insight Squared for the short amount of time that we have, and their team has been phenomenal in even helping me leverage their tool to track some of the outbound and inbound activity from a lead perspective with my BDRs.
Oh, that's great. Looks like we're starting to get some questions. So if we start with Jesse's question here, what's your opinion on a side hustle or passion projects?
Can you explain specifically, give me an example?
Yeah, I know. I was hoping you know. I really don't. I thought it was maybe an age thing. I don't really know either. So we'll maybe let Jesse clarify his question. So I thought it was just me. So,
like something outside of work? I don't know. Maybe you can clarify and I'll answer. We'll table that.
Yeah, we'll let him come back in on that one. But from Shannon, we have one I think we'll know the answer to. What have you seen as drivers for strong BDR and AE relationships?
Awesome. Yeah, this is always an interesting one because it's at times challenging and difficult to perfect, right? There's a personality piece, but also what I find is probably the key factor is communication and transparency. The more that each other know and have the direction on what they're going to work on together and off on their own, the better everybody is. But the way that I look at it is at the beginning of the week, you and your BDR as a sales rep should concoct a plan, right? This is what I'm going to do for the week. Middle of the week, you do a quick little check-in, right? Maybe on Slack or Skype or just Messenger. And then at the end of the week, you report to them, hey, this is what I did, and here's where I was successful. So one of the things that we've done is I've built scorecards for my team. And every Friday, my BDRs have to fill in just a brief scorecard, takes them no longer than 20 minutes, that outlines their activity and what they did from an output perspective, but also goes through the accounts that them and their sales rep have agreed upon and allows them to basically just explain, hey, I called this account and this is what happened. And then every Monday they go through that and then they say, and this is what I'm going to do this week, right? So it's really just a cycle of just full open communication and transparency and helping everybody know and be aligned on what they're going to do, how they're doing, and how they did. I think we lost Randy. Okay. We did lose Randy.
All right, I'm back. Sorry.
Okay.
I was throttling between the comments. Anyway, we are back. Reese, where are you? I am back. Thanks. So anyway, so Jesse clarified side hustle is a passion project you might make money on, but isn't your full-time job. So let's say a course or something they sell.
Gotcha. Well, I have, so let's see, I don't really have experience with a side hustle, but I can tell you I have a dream and a passion. So I was a competitive dancer my whole life, and I've always wanted to, and I taught dance after college for a little while, and then, you know, my career started skyrocketing and I had to put more focus on that. But I would love to get back into teaching dance again or some sort of fitness. I'm an avid fitness person, so I would love to maybe make that my side hustle at some day. So once I do that, Jesse, I'll reach back out to you and let you know how it goes.
There you go. All right. What about talking about email effectiveness and techniques and processes there that you use?
Yeah. So email is hard, or some people think it's hard, I should say. And I think I think prospecting in general, we make it more complex than it has to be. I think we always have to think of what the end goal is. And that really is, hey, I'm not selling in that initial meeting. I'm just trying to generate interest and wave that carrot. We have worked with an Exec Vision, in addition to their conversation intelligence software, also has a consulting business, Foresight, that they do a lot of training. So we work very closely with them on this. And email has been a major point of focus for us. And we built a framework, and Exec Vision calls it TUB, the them, us, both approach. And it's really about researching the prospect and being able to incorporate a tidbit and personalizing that email that's going to generate their interest, whether that's based on a commonality because you went to the same college, whether you live in the same town, but doing research on whether it's the organization or the prospect themselves and showing them that you've done your research and that your email is not just a canned spam, I've sent it to 5,000 people type of an email. So I think there's a lot of success with that, and it's all about how you concoct your email that just really shows the prospect that you care and that you aren't just reaching out to them and 5,000 other people with the same note.
Yeah. Do you leverage Sales Navigator?
We do. So we've done a big push on social selling back. I'd say we started doing it more towards the beginning of this year, where we realized that there's so much potential in social selling, and we hadn't really done a lot of enablement with our teams on how to effectively use it. It's not just about in-mails, right? I actually think in-mails are relatively dead. I think there's a better approach to leveraging social, and that's, and we were talking about this earlier, but people don't want to follow the brand, right? They want to consume insights. When you think of using LinkedIn as a way to get information across, that's going to generate awareness because it's interesting and people want to learn about it. I think that there's a huge value in leveraging social as an outreach solution, but also as building your personal brand and the brand you want to build to generate awareness for your organization.
Yeah, that's great. And for those that are members of Sales Community, you can actually go to the search bar and you actually can input LinkedIn or Sales Navigator. And I get told usually every week that there's some fantastic content in there, and specifically around Sales Navigator. I'm sure your team does this as well, but you can kind of track companies, you can track individuals, and then when they post, then that kind of comes to the top of your list of what you're tracking. Because if you try and follow your feed in LinkedIn, it's almost impossible, right? Because there's just so many. But Sales Navigator, you can actually target a specific group, and then when you see that they're posting on different activities, so if it's a chief security officer that you want to target at Levi's, then you can target that person, and then you could see what are they posting on, and there's some work things or some personal things. If you're doing, for me as an example, you'd say, okay, Duke baseball, and get some tie-in or things like that, or other things that I might be passionate about. So it's not just work, but that personal aspect. It almost seems like, to a certain degree, LinkedIn is almost morphing into some of that personal kind of Facebook type space too, right?
And you can track people's job changes. One of the things we have with LinkedIn Sales Navigator is it filters into our Salesforce as leads. So the people that we build, that we're following, and companies that we're following based on certain activities or posts or job changes, that will actually filter into our Salesforce as a lead, so that our BDRs and our account executives can spend the time. They don't have to always just go fish for it. It's actually coming to them as an inbound.
Wow. It's great. It's amazing. I think, obviously I'm old, but I think back to old school where you'd have these, none of this. And I just tell everybody, everybody's so spoiled, but it's amazing how productive you can be these days.
It's fun too. I mean, we do contests around it. We try to drive the usage of LinkedIn.
Yeah, gamify. It's great. All right, we have another question from Jesse. Thank you, Jesse. How do you get emails delivered? It feels like an act of God to get one delivered now. Spam filters are hard to get past.
I laugh because not sure my team entirely appreciated this in the beginning, but I think they're starting to understand the reason behind it. But one of the things when I came on, I worked with our marketing team, who is phenomenal, by the way. The collaboration we have with them is incredible. We actually capped the amount of emails a rep could send in a day because we were finding that they were just sending way too much. And that goes back to my personalization approach. There's no way you can customize a 500 email blast. You just can't.
You
And
think?
especially to the customers that we're reaching out to on the enterprise grade, it's just not going to go anywhere. So yeah, you have a tool and you can just send a bunch of emails, but you're not going to get much success. So we actually capped it. And initially the reps were like, oh no, but once we started enabling them of how to use the TUB framework, how to leverage research, how to customize your emails, yeah, you see that they're able to send less in a day, but it's all about the output, right? It's about the quality, not the quantity of emails that you're sending. And we've actually seen a pretty significant increase in our reply rates since we cut down the amount of emails a rep could send in a day.
Oh, that's great. But then what are just the mechanics of kind of just getting through and these spam filters and things like that that seem to be more and more elevated these days?
I mean, I think we can't do more than 100 emails in a day. And so SalesLoft actually has like a piece or like a flag that they can help you with that. But as far as customer spam filters, I mean, I think one of the key things is we don't embed video into our emails. I think that's one thing that's typically a red flag, right? Another thing is we don't typically tend to do a lot of links. We'll maybe send content versus doing a link. It really depends on the customer's spam filter, but I haven't really heard that as a huge issue with my team, more than just, us being able to control the amount of emails that go out to hopefully avoid it getting caught in spam filters with our customers.
Gotcha. And I guess you can always track kind of what the read rate is as well as a good indicator, right?
Yeah, we have the ability to track the open, the click, and the reply rate.
Yeah. And how have you found those metrics maybe now as we're coming out of COVID versus in the middle of COVID versus pre-COVID?
Well, look, I mean, current COVID, I think everyone was at home. So they had more time in front of their PCs, so they were more apt to open an email. I think, if I look probably COVID and then now, we're in general starting to see more positive results on our email reply rates. I'm not sure of the direct correlation of that and COVID, but I think the key is you want to make it also short enough that someone can read on a mobile, right? Because now that the world's going to start opening back up, you're not going to be in front of your PC as much, and you want to be able to digest and consume an email that can fit right on this little screen.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. So maybe back to you. So you're probably a great example that females can have it all. So successful executive, marriage, kids, had a baby. So what are kind of words of wisdom from any maybe up and coming females?
Be vocal, right? Be open about what you need. I think, look, there's a lot of pressure on females, and oftentimes we put that pressure on ourselves, right? To be it all and to be able to be in 10 places at once. And it is possible to find that balance, but you have to be vocal, and you also have to be true to yourself of what that balance means for you. What do you want for your family? What do you want for your professional career? And you have to find a place, an organization or someone to work for that's going to align to what your definition of balance is. And I think often too, we have to be vocal about what we want. If we don't ask for it, we're not going to get it. And I think, especially in the tech industry, it's still very male dominated. And I think it's kind of unconsciously that, maybe certain policies aren't in place because no one really knew, right? I don't think anyone does anything to, get in the way of females having success. I think there's so many programs in diversity and inclusion, but there are small things that people just don't know, right? And that's one of the things that I've learned over my career is that you have to ask for what you want, right? You have to ask maybe for that flexibility that you want. And you just have to be really vocal and asking for help and really just understanding what your definition of balance is and finding an organization or someone that's going to be able to align to that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think if you did a kind of stack ranking, I would say on average, there's a larger percentage, if you took percentage of, I don't know if I'm getting in trouble here, larger percentage of females than males that are actually top performers. So, obviously given all the attributes and empathy and kind of strength and focus and courage and all that. So, selfishly for organizations, the more females you can get, I think the better off they would all be.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think in order to get more females, you have to be able to show females that, they have to have people to look up to that say, hey, she can do it and so can I. And that's something I'm so passionate about, because I just think sometimes, and even if you look at, STEM, right, and you look at just early education, right. What are we doing to give females the confidence to put their name in the hat? What are we doing to give them the confidence to know that they can do it, right? They have to believe in themselves, and I think that starts from an early age, right? I mean, I'm raising a daughter. She's only 4 months old, but I think about that every day of how am I going to set her up for success, to be confident, to feel empowered, and to be able to make her mark on this world, and let her know that she can do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I get asked a lot, and I think, you have a popular, if you want to call it just a general diversity population that's in the workplace. So there's a lot, some things you can do to kind of cultivate and nurture, but I think if you really want to move the needle, you have to go really back into the college ranks. And I know you're active on the college side as well, but to say, hey, here's a profession you can do well, it can be a great life, and something that you should focus on. And I always think it's really unfortunate that so I went to Boston College. A lot of people know, I think there's, 1 or 2 sales classes, but you have other places like a FSU, and I know you're involved in college there locally, but you think such a profession that most liberal arts people are going to go into sales. At the time, they don't realize it, but they're going to do it. And all these schools really don't really have, strong sales programs like they should be preparing everybody for, right?
Yeah. Gosh, I have so many amazing things to say about sales programs. There's actually 50 universities across the country that are actively participate in sales programs and do sales contests. And I'm on the executive advisory board for UTD, and their sales program, Dr. Dover, is incredible. But I mean, I have no issue hiring individuals out of a sales program, because they're actually held to a quota in school as part of their curriculum, right? They're dialing, they're basically doing the SDR role way before you even hire them. And I think that that's fantastic. I think there's a lot of fundamentals that these sales programs teach these up and coming sales stars that I think we can all take a huge advantage of, as they graduate and come into the workforce.
Yeah, and a good friend, Anthony Robbins, who's on the advisory board of Sales Community, runs Fed for NVIDIA. Daughter FSU sales program, going to Dell. Son played football. I'm going to get myself in trouble here. Of course, I'm forgetting. I want to say NC State. He's going to kill me. That's not it. Anyway, played football somewhere, did great. But because his daughter came from a sales program, she's starting out ahead and actually is getting a higher level of compensation than somebody that didn't. So I think over time these schools really should be putting a lot more into it. I think we have a question from Tucker. The BDR to AE jump is always a big step for sellers earlier in their career. What are some of the best practices BDRs can follow to be successful in that next role?
I love this question, and I think that there's actually a lot that we as leaders need to do in order to set these individuals up for success. Look, the BDR and the AE role are 2 completely different roles. Yes, it's a natural progression because that prospecting piece of it is so important and you've mastered that. But we need to make sure that we're setting these individuals up for success along the different stages of the sales cycle, right? And so I think enablement is just a key factor. And it's one thing I think we have all maybe not done the best job at, in an area that we really need to focus. Now, I am so focused on hiring from within. I mean, I have an example right now where I have a junior account executive that's moved up into field sales, and so excited and proud and thrilled for him. And we're looking to hire internally from the BDR team to fill that junior account executive role. And one of the things that's keeping me up right now is, if this individual, has challenges, that's on me, right? Because there's such a big jump, and you've got to help them over that bridge to be able to give them and set them up for success around understanding some of the more complex pieces of a sales cycle, which is really that taking it from that prospecting stage and progressing that opportunity into, I really think it's enablement. And I think it's on the hands of the leaders. Now, look, obviously the reps are accountable themselves to learn and to grow, but I think coupled with mentoring, pairing them with successful other reps, and then making sure that you have a very strong enablement program in order for them to follow to be successful.
Yeah, great perspectives. What about kind of, I would call it church and state, but kind of marketing and sales, and some organizations, do it well, some don't. Marketing over time, I think, is getting a lot more, useful and helpful and metric driven to sales, and that's kind of probably a long time coming, but it's something I think the next few years is really going to accelerate.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Hand in hand. You have to be hand in hand. You can't survive without each other, really. And, there's so many schools of thought. I know many organizations have their SDR teams rolling into their marketing teams, and everybody kind of does it differently. But I will say it's one of the things that I've really enjoyed about working here at FireMon is the collaboration between the marketing team and the sales team. And a lot of that, look, we're all using the same tools. We're leveraging the same data. And marketing has been instrumental in helping to effectively craft messaging against the use cases and the personas that we're going after, taking our direction and feedback on, hey, here's what we're hearing for our customers, and here's how we need to tweak certain things. Also, making sure that there's accountability and joint metrics around lead conversion rates. That's something I think is really, really important. We spend a lot of time looking at leads, looking at where they're falling, how they're falling, what the conversion rates are, how do we need to maybe tweak things a little bit to see more lead flow, more quality. And I think just communication, right? And just collaboration is so important, and it's been amazing to see that here and to see how vested the marketing team is in the sales team, and how we feed off of them as well. So
yeah, that's great. It'll be interesting. So you have actual specific metrics that I'll say are kind of sales-ish metrics that then the marketing team is accountable for then, correct?
Yeah, we actually do an OpGen review, I think almost like twice a week. We look at the OpGen across really the whole organization, but for me, it's the BDR team as well as we also have metrics for my account executive team on OpGen, and we talk through it, right? And we have a goal that we have to meet every week, and we talk about where we are against that goal, what the challenges were, what we need to maybe tweak. So it's just extremely important to be in the know about each other's metrics, but also to share the accountability in those metrics as well.
Oh, that's great. We have a question from Jesse. All right. I hate being cold called. It's not only annoying and can be harassing. Merrill Lynch banned it from their trading floor. I wouldn't take credit for this, but is it possible one of my posts about how bad it can be caused them to ban it? Don't think Andy Sieg saw your post, Jesse, but what do you think of cold calling? Do you like being cold called, and should reps do it? I know we talked about it a little bit in the beginning, but maybe cover it again.
Yeah, look, I don't think anyone on the phone would say, or on this session would say they enjoy being cold called, but there have been times I have enjoyed it. Especially being in the field that I'm in, I am a little bit more sensitive to it, and I am very appreciative when someone knows something about me, right? When they call and they reference something, or they have a sense of humor, right? And they just make the call personable, not just like, hey, I'm Kristen from FireMon, how you doing today, right? It making something like you're having a real conversation versus being sold to, I think are the ones that I like. And there have been many that I have just laughed at and just really in a good way, right? And enjoyed the conversation. So I think it goes back to that personalization, right? Just calling someone and being extremely generic is not going to get you anywhere, but calling someone and immediately helping them understand that you know something about them, you know something about what their organization is trying to achieve, and they should be talking to you because you have a solution that can help because it's helped other customers in XYZ way. And being able to formulate that in a short, sweet, and to the point approach, and knowing, again, like I said before, that your end goal is you're not going to sell something in that conversation. Your end goal is to just get them interested enough to be willing to take a meeting with you to explore whether or not this is a solution that's something they want to proceed with learning more about.
Wow, great. Jesse has a comment. Just want to make sure you see it. Love this interview. Kristen rocks. Get her promoted to CRO. So, do you? If I put you on the spot, so right now you work for CRO, I assume.
I do. I work for Brian Keats. He's our CRO.
Okay. You want to give him any shout outs?
He's amazing, really. And I truly mean that. I have learned so much from Brian. He's someone who really taught me the power of just empowerment, but also he's someone who's constantly learning. I've watched him because he joined the company a little bit prior to me, and I've just watched him continue to develop himself and his skill set around FireMon, and it's just inspirational. And he's just a rock star when it comes to the selling process. And I really have just learned so much from him. So I can't say enough great things about Brian. He's incredible, and he's really been a change agent for this organization in a positive, constructive way.
That's great. So I assume you don't have to comment, but I assume you're on the depth chart somewhere to step up into CRO. Are there things that you're working on personally in terms of developing to be ready for that move?
It is an aspiration for me, absolutely. That would be an identified next step for me, for sure. Look, I have someone amazing to work under and to grow, and it's one of the first things, him and I spoke about when I was interviewing for this job, is that, this was a career goal for me, and I wanted to soak up and learn everything I could from him, right? So, that's one piece of it. But self-development for me, I do so many things, right? I listen to podcasts, I read books. I was actually just talking to our CMO about a community in a course that is VP to CRO that I'm looking to see if it's something that, I can do, right? Because I think it's so important to learn and to grow. But also just really continuously investing in yourself and realizing where the gaps are and what you need to work on, and being honest with yourself, because that's where you grow, and surrounding yourself with people that can help you get to where you need to be.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of times we'll get SDRs who they may want to be CEO tomorrow, but always say, well, how long is it going to take till I can make the next move, either internal as SDR or kind of outside rep? And I'm amazed at the usually poor job that companies do in kind of lining up. You're obviously very structured and have seen the movie before, but the companies really don't do a good job of kind of setting the expectations and those development goals.
Yeah.
And then sometimes people will leave, and they're just kind of in poor communication, poor coaching. And I'm sure you've obviously don't have that on your team, but I'm sure you've seen that in the industry and probably people that you're recruiting in as well, right?
I have, and I think that goes back to my comment about, it's the job of a leader to make their team successful. It really is. And I think, as for me, I started right out of college, and my career rose really, really fast, sometimes faster than I could keep up with. I remember moving into an executive job on the first time, that I moved into a VP role, and I had set a goal for myself for a certain age to make VP, and I made that, right? And I got in, and I was like, whoa. This is a whole nother world, and it's really hard to move from even just a manager or a director into an executive role, not just from a leadership perspective, but understanding the business. And so I do think organizations need to do a better job in putting that as part of their formal development programs, because I think that's very challenging. It's great that you want to hire and promote from within, and the concept makes a lot of sense, but it goes back to that enablement and the commitment to ensuring the people that you move into those roles are successful.
That's great. Thanks. So just as a reminder, people can ask questions. We've been getting some good questions, but feel free to keep asking anything that would be relevant to you. Kristen's obviously very authentic and open, so we appreciate that. So moving on, what trends do you see for FireMon that are kind of either kind of wind at your face or wind at your back in terms of trends that could potentially help or threaten the business?
Yeah, look, it's an exciting time in our market as security and IT leaders are doing more and more around digital transformation, right? That's been a trend for quite some time. But with that, they're grappling with making sure that they're secure and that they're compliant, right? And also with the increasing number of threats from a security perspective. I mean, we just heard about two in the past month, right? The attack on the meat industry and then the pipeline, right? So it's happening, it's not going away, and I can tell you it's probably going to get worse. And so it's something that's keeping security IT leaders and IT leaders up at night. So I think it's a great opportunity for us to demonstrate how we can help customers through these times and what we can do to ensure cleanliness and maintain a security posture within their firewall environment through automation and compliance and risk mitigation. And I think that network security is also in the midst of a tectonic shift, right? As organizations move more and more towards cloud-based technologies and zero trust approaches, they're really investing more time and energy into how they make their environment set up for success.
Yeah. And I assume the ultimate kind of sales executive signing off is a chief security officer, but in your
I mean, that's one of the main
process,
components. Yeah, for sure.
security business,
Yep.
kind of who do you target and how do you target and how does all that work?
Yeah, so the CISO is ultimately our main and key persona. We obviously spend a lot of time with the network security teams as well. And a lot of that is really centered around just helping us understand and gather data around the pains that they're having. And, you know, what they need to do to prepare for an audit, for example, and the time that that takes, and making sure that they're compliant so that they can pass those audits, and helping them see the value in what we can provide and show that value and sell that value across many different pieces of the organization. But it's also not just the security team, it's the risk team, it's the compliance team, it's the IT team. Just with any enterprise sale, right? You're not just reaching out to one persona, you've got to build your relationship across the entire matrix of the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked a bunch about marketing, but we didn't cover this in our prep, but do you leverage the channel and have an indirect motion as well?
We do, yeah. We are indirect in how we go to business. That's our model, and the channel's great. I mean, look, they help us scale. They have a lot of obviously relationships with some of our key personas and prospects within the accounts, and they are absolutely instrumental to the success of our business. Our channel leader, Andrew Warren, has an extensive amount of experience in the industry and is dedicated and committed to working and building our relationships with the channel. We also started a new pilot program this year, leveraging a couple of our BDRs to go drive awareness in the channel. So working hand in hand with Andrew and our commercial account manager, channel account managers, to be able to build our brand across all different pieces of the channel, not just the current channel we work with, but expanding our reach.
And typically the career path of inside sellers or SDRs would kind of more to call kind of outside sales roles. But do you see any that are kind of going from inside sales to channel roles?
Well, yeah, especially with this pilot program that we put in place. I know that now that my reps that are working on that side of the business, now that they've started to understand what it is and starting to build relationships and seeing the channel business, there's a lot of interest in potentially moving over into a channel account manager role, which I think is great, right? Being able to give BDRs options around what pieces of the business they can go in. Yeah, you know, the typical natural progression is BDR to seller, but we also have other options like BDR to marketing or BDR to channel. So I love giving them the exposure to all different pieces of the business.
And do you find that some BDRs say we just want outside or just want marketing or interested in the channel, and any attributes with those kind of personas that pick kind of the different flavors of jobs they can go after next?
I think they're at a point where they're all trying to figure it out. And that's the fun part of my job, right? I always say that I'm the kindergarten teacher, right? They come in and I help them learn the industry, learn the business of selling, and hopefully they'll never forget me, because you never forget your kindergarten teacher, right? So I think they're at a point where they're figuring it all out. What do I want to do? And so, like I said, giving them different exposure to different pieces of the business, I think is really valuable, because it helps them build out, oh, maybe this is something I want to try. I think often when you're just starting out and I remember, you don't always necessarily know what you want to do, but being able to see kind of the inner workings behind the scenes of other pieces of the business, I think starts to really help you develop your aspirations.
Yeah, absolutely. We had Greg Scorziello on a few weeks ago, who was our first kindergarten teacher. I have to tell him that EMC back in mid 80s, but it was amazing. A lot of the old folks that kind of would chime in, and everybody obviously says great things. There's so many memories that you have because you're so impressionable at the time. So if you think about those BDRs, SDRs, kind of what are some of the attributes that you would say kind of within the first few months that you can kind of tag, if you can at all, say, hey, wow, this person is really going to be successful down the road or not?
Yeah, and I'm doing a lot of interviewing right now because we are expanding and hiring a lot of BDRs. So this is very timely. Competitive, right? I want to see someone that's competitive. I'm super competitive, and I don't, competitive in sports, competitive as a chess player, competitive in poker, whatever it may be, right? I want to see that fire. I want to see that you're not going to let somebody else beat you on a leaderboard, and I want to see that come through. Hungry, right? I want to see someone who has a goal, has a dream that they want to go after and go get. We have a vision board that we created at the beginning of the year, and so every member of my team kind of had the vision or the things that they wanted to get as a result of their hard work. So seeing people who have something that they want to work for, self-motivated, I think is really, really important. Seeing someone that is that goes and gets things together with the help of others, but knows how to get it themselves and ask for it. So I think some of those are really, really important. I think personable too. When I get on the phone with someone for an interview, I want to know that I can talk to them, right? I mean, it's hard dialing all day and trying to talk to people, but there are those people that you talk to that just, you instantly start a conversation with them as if you've known them for years. And I think that's really important in this job.
Yeah, absolutely. And how have you found with COVID, kind of the whole recruiting, retaining, easier, harder?
Yeah, I think retaining and attracting, so retaining talent in an inside sales job has always been difficult because it's such a high turnover rate, right? I think attracting talent is always difficult as well because there's so many inside sales organizations, so there's so much to choose from. I think with the pandemic, one of the things, and especially now post-pandemic, that's really going to impact how we attract and retain is our ability to maintain that flexibility, right? I think there's a recent Wall Street Journal article that talked through hybrid and talked about all these companies just trying to figure out and how it is going to be a competitive something that these people who are looking to join companies are going to view as competitive in their offers, right? And this company lets me work 3 days a week from home, and this company lets me 2 days a week. So we have to figure out that balance. And so I think it'll just be different in the things that we need to present as part of our packages as we look to attract talent.
Yeah, great. And Jesse's, I think, trying to stir the pot here a little bit. So we talked before about account-based marketing, Sixth Sense, why you thought it was important at the time. So Jesse says, Kristen, I think ABM programs produce just about zero value for sales in most scenarios. What does ABM mean to you?
So I can see where you would say that, and I think a lot of that downfall is probably centered around what you're doing with ABM and how you're creating value out of the data that you have. When you look at something like a Sixth Sense, look, I can have Sixth Sense, my competitors can have Sixth Sense, but it's all about how are we creating actionable insights based on the data that we're receiving and how we're leveraging that to outreach to our clients. So I think FireMon does a really good job from an ABX. We call it ABX, but same thing, ABM. From an ABX perspective, we have a dedicated team to it, and we're all learning and we're still growing through it. But I think it's all in how you use it versus just taking it at face value. Just with anything, you have to digest it. You have to create value from it, and that takes a team of people, not just a tool or a platform, to be able to really manipulate and be have their hands in what our expectations of the program are, how we're doing against that, being able to tweak and adjust as we go, and also really being able to drive the value out of the information that we're getting.
Yeah, great. As he says, great points. So along your journey, have there been any particular kind of words of wisdom, feedback, or advice in particular that kind of stand out for you?
Yeah, and I'm sure you know a lot of my role models throughout the years, but yeah, there's a couple. I think two that come to mind. I have been told many times, especially earlier in my career, of you have so much potential, but you got to get out of your own way. And I think a lot of that comes with the confidence, right? And that just goes back to being a female in a male world, right? I mean, IT sales, male dominated. I covered financial services for a very long time, male dominated. You know, it takes a long time to build up your confidence to be able to feel, you know, comfortable in how you're delivering the message and ability to achieve success. And I think that's from within. No one can teach you confidence. And so some of the best advice that I've gotten is get out of your own way. And I've really taken that to heart, and I teach that and I mentor that and I coach that to my team too, because there's only so far we can go as leaders to help others. There is a part of it that they have to help themselves, and a lot of that comes from the confidence factor. And I think confidence is a muscle too. You have to build it every day, constantly. It's not just there forever. And I think the other piece is ask for help. That was one of the things that I didn't do a good job at when I was first when I had first become a VP. Is I thought I could do it all on my own. And I was always such a team player, but I felt like I had something to prove to the people around me, and that, oh, I don't need help, I've got this. When the reality was I looked worse off because I didn't ask for help, right? So having that guidance of someone saying to me, and I remember, I'll never forget the phone call, and it's someone we both know very well, just called me after a big meeting and just said, Kristen, you just got to ask for help. And I sat there and I said, wow, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I probably should have done that. So tough to hear it, but the right, really impacted how I go about things now.
Yeah, that's great. And also kind of similar path too, I think, is also it's okay to say that you don't know. So if you're on a sales call or, early business review or, any types of things, don't try and BS your way through it. If you don't know, customers have, I think, a lot more respect. You just say, don't know, great question, but I'll make sure I get back to you. Similarly, if it's a review, if it's a drill down about an account or team or person or whatever, if you don't know, you're much better off being more authentic and more transparent. I guess I'd put it in the category, just like, asking for help, because everybody's been in a similar situation, right?
Yep, and being self-aware, right? Just knowing when you need help and going to ask for it and going to figure it out. And hey, we're all going to fail. We're all going to fall. It's just what we learn and what we learn from those failures.
Yep, absolutely. Well, as Nor gets to then, it might be a little weird coming from me, but he always asks if anybody has any. He says, I think PG rated funny Randy stories. So I'll ask you the same if you have anything you want to share.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed working with you, Randy, in the time that we did. But one thing that really sticks out is a sales kickoff. And what's interesting is my husband actually he still works for HP, but that's where we met. And it's one of the things that he remembers about you as well, is at a sales kickoff in Vegas. We had all had a really fun night the night before. And I think 7:30 in the morning, you were first up on stage. And here you come flying in from above, attached to a harness, looking like you've got like 12 hours of just beauty sleep with a mask and cucumber eyes. I don't know, but you looked fantastic after a fun night. And I just remember thinking, wow, this guy's amazing. He can go out and party with the best of them and come looking extremely refreshed and deliver a kick-ass presentation. So awesome job.
Thanks. The theme there is you always have to answer the bell. So
The what?
You always have to answer the bell. So
Yeah.
No matter what you do the night before, you got to be at a
exactly. You always do a good job of that.
Get up and go. But you've been a terrific guest. For those that are not members of Sales Community, you can go to salescommunity.com. Right now we have we call it a no-brainer 30-day free trial tied in with our new book, Your Go-To Sales Advisor. We're going to have some, I think, membership specials on there. You can also go to Amazon now to order it. Technically, it's backlogged, but we're going to be pressing the final button later today to get the books printed. So probably be 2-3 weeks till they actually get sent. And in closing, Kristen, thank you so much. Anything you want to add?
No, thank you so much. This was such a pleasure. I really appreciate you having me on, and thanks for having me a part of your book as well. It's so exciting. Congratulations to you.
Right. Thank you. And next week, really excited to have Latney from Sixth Sense. She's a CMO, and there'll be lots of fantastic words of wisdom, I'm sure. So everybody have a great rest of day and great week, and cheer for Duke baseball this weekend, please. Thanks.